I'm Jay, Chaisuksiri, Product Specialist, ISS. Today I want to show you how to program ToolsTalk 2. So let's go take a look.
We're going to talk about how to create a pulse program. What is a pulse program? It's this impulse single step. These are used for LRT tools, specifically TBP tools, because it has a pulse unit. A tensor pulse is used for an electric pulse tool like an SRB and an STR with a pulse strategy. In this case, we're going to use impulse single step because we're going to use a TBP tool with a pulse unit. And for this example, I'm just going to name it pulse program. Target torque, let's set it up to 10. I'm going to click add. Now on this new program, let's start from properties. You could add a description, and this description here will be presented in your ToolsTalk 2 screen here. Strategy, as we know, it's going to be impulse, reheat detection. A pulse tool can detect reheat, and same like every other tool, there are two types of reheat, which is early or complete. Early is when it founds a reheat in the beginning of a timing. It will say not okay and it will stop the tool. If you select reheat detection as complete, means it's going to run the whole cycle, and if it knows it's a reheat, it'll flag that timing as not okay. In typical cases, we're going to select this as early or off. Attachment tuning enable. This is if you have a Crawford head or additional attachments to the tool. Now, if you notice, there are 3 steps to an impulse strategy. A typical strategy, there will be 4 steps. So what are these 3 steps? It'll be start stage, rundown stage, and timing stage. On the start stage, mostly you'll have a slower speed of 300 RPM. You might be confused what it means slow speed. If it's 300, a pulse tool can run up to 6,000 RPM. In this stage is where your operator might want to look for the socket. So the tool would engage with the socket and start its timing. Under rundown speed, by default, this is set up as max. I'm going to change that max to manual and tone it down a little bit. Means my tool that is connected has a 6,000 RPM. I want to turn that down to 3,000. I could also set rundown time limits and rundown pulse limits. What are the pulse limits? So the more pulse you have, the more accurate a timing is, but it will the pulse unit will have to be maintained quicker. While if you have a lower pulse, the timing will be less accurate, but there will be less wear and tear to the pulse unit itself. You could select from trigger or from torque, as you can see here. But I'll turn that off as well. Now, to our timing stage, target torque is 10 Newton meter. Then we have to adjust this pulse energy when we start doing the timing. Pulse energy is maximum energy a tool can deliver in each pulse. An example is if you said the target torque is 10 Newton meters, and when you did a rundown, it turns out to be 15, it pretty much means you might have a high pulse energy. So you might reduce that pulse energy. It's 15, so you might want to try reduce the pulse energy to 80%, and you do the rundown again. It becomes more accurate. Maybe it's like 11, and then maybe you might have to tone down the speed and pulse energy. Next is the residual torque correlation factor. Because a pulse tool has a high rundown speed, it's sort of skipping the friction in the thread. And the problem there is on your controller, it might show you are running down a target torque of 10 Newton meters. And then somebody comes in with an ST wrench or a digital wrench, and turns out they can measure a torque of 14 Newton meters. To adjust that value to be, and it turns out it looks like your TBP tool is inaccurate, but no, because your clamping force is much higher from the higher speed. Because of that, you could tune down your residual torque correlation factor to show the same result by dividing the residual torque to your dynamic torque reading and then adjust this factor, and you'll have an accurate reading. Next is the torque limits. We can set this to manual, so that depends on your spec. So maybe from 9 to 11, and my target is in the middle. You could also set an angle limit. I could say my angle limit is from rundown complete or from torque. From torque could be, maybe from 8, and I want to monitor that angle. I'm going to set this limit wide open, and we'll start to collect some data. And when we start to have an accurate data of a bell curve and result, and we can put in an angle min and max. You can also set a time limit, a pulse limit, like what we mentioned before. It's just this is for the timing stage instead. And that's pretty much it. That's a lot of details on how to set up an impulse program.
So that's it on this video for ToolsTalk 2. I hope that was helpful. If you have any more questions, please contact your local Atlas Copco representative. Thanks for watching.